This is a download from the BBC of the World Football Phone-In, which is broadcast as part of the Up All Night programme on 5 Live from 2:30am to 4am on Saturday mornings. Here's the latest edition.
Hey, where's our music? Do we have to sing this ourselves again? You want the Supremes to sing it? Okay, well, I suppose I'm going to have to be Diana Ross again. Andy, who are you going to be?
I was going to be Diana Ross.
No, I'm Diana Ross. Tim, can you be Cindy Birdsong? Of course, Mary Wilson's the pretty one.
Oh, right, that's me then.
No. I'll be Mary Wilson. You can be Diana Ross. Go on. Under pain of death, that is. Okay, should we scrap the music? Should we just get on with the phone without it? Or can we have our music? Okay, let's try and do it anyway. Tim, are you up for singing? Where's Tim? Hey, there's no Tim.
You're going to snake out a very, very long arm and twist mine at the other side of the other thing.
Exactly.
I might just kind of move my lips, like the players do when they're on the national anthem. You know,
oh, of course.
Hope nothing comes out.
Okay, you two can hum it. I'll sing it again. I am a football fan. I am a soccer fan. I come to see Lineker beat the rest of the world. That's the best I can do, mate. That's the best I can do. 0500 909 693. Apologies for not giving you the usual razzmatazz to kick off the show, but good to have you listening in any case. Pick up the phone and give us a call. 0500 909 693. We're talking football in South America and Europe. Andy Brassell is our European correspondent here in the studio with me this week, usually in Lyon, and he's been off to see an interesting game in Lyon. We'll talk about that in a moment or two. Tim Vickery, as ever, in his base in Rio to take any of your questions and comments on football in South America. Let's kick off with a text message from Paul, is it Northern Iron Trucker? Right, the Northern Iron Trucker. So I presume he's a West Ham fan in...
No, he's just from Northern Iron. It's Northern Iron.
Oh, I get it. That Northern Iron. Anyway, he says, love the show, and I'm listening again after missing the last 2 months due to a broken fingernail. Yes, okay. Please ask
These
Andy.
Digital radios are tricky, aren't they?
Please ask Andy where Paco has gone and why he left Liverpool. We're really struggling without him.
He's not anywhere at the moment. He's enjoying a well-deserved break. But a lot of people said he was very, very vital to what Benitez was doing at Liverpool. Although you could argue they're doing consistently well in the Champions League and consistently badly in the Premier League. So nothing's really changed too much in that respect. But I'm sure he'll pop up in Spain again at some point.
And talking of Liverpool, Mohamed in Liverpool has said that he's delighted, absolutely delighted, that Macherano has finally put pen to paper and signed for Liverpool. I suppose you are as well, Tim, because you've been predicting this for how many years now?
Yeah, well, he's an absolute class act, isn't he? And the thing I was thinking of when I saw the news is that, it's 30 years on from the landing of Ardiles and Ricardo Villa at Tottenham, and I don't know, we're old enough to remember that happening. And I remember all of the great and good of English football, all of those wise old heads, they all came out to say, it's not going to work, it's not going to work. They ain't going to like it up, and they'll be home by Christmas, it'll be too cold, they won't be able to cope with the football. We know with the benefit of hindsight that Villa was hardly a flop, he was a relative success, and Ardiles could hardly have been more successful. Became an absolute Tottenham legend. But because English football didn't really follow through, there was that unfortunate war between England and Argentina in the early 80s and so on, English football just went back to the habit of, these are luxury players, they're not going to like it, it's going to be too cold. And then Tevez and Macherano come over, all right, they had all the controversy with the MSI thing at West Ham, but I think the one thing that both Tevez and Macherano have proved, perhaps there's two things that they've proved, and number one is that they can both really play, and number two is that no way are you going to call them luxury players. And you stand against Macherano on a football field and call him a luxury player and see what response you get. So I'm very, very happy that a player of undoubted class and real grit and character has proved so successful.
And Glyn in Stoke, I do apologise for the real sounds of Charlton earlier. Cleo in Aldershot's with us, though. Good morning, Cleo.
Morning, boys. A quick question for Tim and one for Andy. For Tim, I don't know if you've seen on the Esporte website about a Dr. Bernardo Santi who's been bad-mouthing Ronaldo, saying his injury is the result of him taking substances when he was a skinny 17-year-old PSV. And for Andy, the disgusting, disgraceful racist incidents at Met one involving saluting after the Lyon match, and the second involving a Moroccan-born defender, Kouade, the captain of Valencia, who was racially abused, and who incidentally spent time at Fulham under Jean Tigana. What's the FA doing about the French FA and Met, please?
Well, the French FA, just to briefly explain the situation, there was a problem with some Mets fans doing Nazi salutes at Lyon last week. The FA is going to come down pretty hard on them. They're looking at a points deduction. They would have been anyway, perhaps, with the incident that had happened the week ago, which is actually Mets' home game against Valenciennes, when the Valenciennes captain, Abdesalem Wadou, the Moroccan player who, as you say, used to play for Fulham, he was abused by an individual, it has to be said. But Wadou got into the stand at half-time to ask the guy what he thought he was doing. The referee handled
it. Yellow card.
Yeah, the referee handled it very poorly. He basically sidestepped the issue. He denied that he heard any racism going on, even though Wadou was caught on TV camera actually telling him this and saying, "Why aren't you doing anything about it?" If we look at precedent, though, earlier in the season in the second division, Bastia were docked a point for a Liborn player who turned around and made a gesture at some fans who were giving him some racist abuse. He was sent off. So the referee didn't deal with it very well in that situation either. But the Federation looked at it afterwards, the league looked at it afterwards, and they docked Bastia a point, which really quite disgracefully they're still trying to get added back onto their total. But I mean, as far as the referees go, they don't seem to be trained so well in dealing with it as, say, Dutch referees when there's been racist abuse in the past or some sort of element of fan behaviour. Yeah, exactly. They've stopped the game. They've taken the teams off the field. Now, whether the French referees just don't have the bottle to do that or whether they need more direction, I think is open to debate. But at least what is encouraging is the league and the French Football Federation are prepared to come down on people hard, because just like a few little fines aren't really going to do anything. Points deductions where it's at. That's what's going to happen.
Banning orders.
That's right. It's either got to hit the club financially by not just like finding them a few quid, but making them play a few games behind closed doors, or, like I say, going for the points. That's what really hurts teams. So I think that's the way they've got to go. So
the allegations against, was it Ronaldo?
Ronaldo, yes.
Tim?
Yeah, that's right. Dr. Bernardo Santi, we're on dodgy legal ground
here,
but
I know,
let's say that he cast certain aspersions about the methods that Ronaldo used way back when he was at PSV Eindhoven to bulk up. Now, there's no doubt whatsoever that Ronaldo did bulk up. He was a skinny little kid when he first went over, and he became an absolute powerhouse. Now, Ronaldo denies these allegations and says that he's never even met Dr. Santi. Dr. Santi was sacked by the Brazilian FA as a result of making these remarks. The Brazilian FA said it was a lack of respect
Socrates
to Ronaldo.
even mentioned things on a website I've been reading. Socrates even said the same thing.
Yeah, Dr. Socrates is himself a medical man. He's a trained doctor. And the doctor involved, Bernardo Santi, continues to be highly respected in Brazil, and I think will work with the Brazilian Olympic Commission. Now, by whatever method that Ronaldo did bulk up, he certainly did bulk up. And I think that clearly has been part of the knee problems that he's had, because his frame was built one way, put much more weight on, and at full flight he was an extraordinary sight, and probably the quickest player there has ever been running with the ball. And when you added the power to it as well, it was an extraordinary sight. And I remember seeing one of his really great days, and perhaps one of his last great days, when he was playing for Brazil at home to Argentina in 2004 in World Cup qualifying. And it was on the very stadium where he made his name, in Belo Horizonte, where he first made his name. And Ronaldo had worked out that it was probably the biggest game he'd ever play in front of a Brazilian audience. And the big occasion, more often than not, the big occasion brought the best out of him. And he just looked like a different species. And Argentina just couldn't cope with him at all. Argentina played most of the football, lost 3-1. All three were penalties. All three scored by Ronaldo. And all three penalties were suffered by Ronaldo, because Argentina just couldnn't stop him. It was like watching a Superman. The Argentinian defenders would just bounce off him. So that power that he had Let's say that he got that power by purely legal means, but he did pay a price for it in terms of the extra weight and the extra strain that he put on his knees.
Cleo, thanks a lot for that. Look, I'm going to have to start this all over again. More like it. You can't have the football phone in on Up All Night without our theme tune, can you? And it's better than me having to sing it with my Supremes here, Cindy Birdsong and Mary Wilson. Anyway, that's more like it. Thanks very much to the powers that be for that. So, let's start all over again then. It's 0-0 to start off with. Let's blow the whistle again. Okay, let's kick off now. Are you ready, both of you?
Yeah. Bring it on.
Okay. Where should we start? That's the question. Now, we can start absolutely anywhere. So let's take this question from Stuart in Hartlepool. By the way, 0500 909 693 is the number to call if you've just woken up and you've heard the theme tune. It's 10 to 3. You're 15 minutes late. We've only just started a game for you. 0500 909 693. Pick up the phone and give us a call. Let's talk football in South America and Europe. So from Stuart in Hartlepool for Andy, just wanted to ask your reaction to the Serie A revised table. I don't know if you're aware of this, that puts Juventus on top if there were no refereeing mistakes during the season. That's a huge turnaround from what the table actually looks like. Do you know?
I'm not aware of that. I'll have to look into that. But
have they suffered refereeing mistakes?
Well, I think if you look back through the history of Italian football, most Italians would tell you that Juventus have hardly suffered from refereeing mistakes over the years, and not just over the Calciopoli years, but I think people talk extensively about the extent of influence exerted by Fiat and the Agnelli family. So I don't know about this season, but I think all in all they've probably done all right.
From Bashir, Tim, if you were a manager of a football team and you were given the chance to sign either Sergio Aguero or Alexandre Pato, who would you sign and why? And please don't sit on the fence. Give me an honest answer, says Bashir.
Oh, talk about an embarrassment of riches.
You're sitting on the fence, sounds like that to me.
They're both so absolutely fantastic. All right, you're going to absolutely force me to make a decision. My arm, dot and twisted one of my arms over singing the theme tune. My other arm is being twisted, and we'll be onto the legs next. I am going to buy, of the two, I'm going to buy Aguero. And the reason is, well, I think Pato is just fantastically talented, unbelievably talented. However, I wonder about, he's such a kid, we're talking about an 18-year-old, and I wonder week in, week out. Let's see physically if he can cope with the strain. The talent is breathtaking, but I'm just not 100% sure physically how he's going, because he hasn't answered that question yet. He just hadn't got enough games under his belt. So Aguero is a little bit further down the line. He came over and had that first season where he was all right, started off well, ran out of steam. I think they've had to look at his diet, and he's come back second season much, much better. Still has things to learn and let himself down and let his club down in the way that he got sent off against Bolton. But if you're a manager, and this is the basis of my decision, your planning is based on the next game and the game after that, and not next season and the season after that. Because if you don't do well in the next couple of games, you might not be around in the next season. So to give me better results in the short term, I'm going to go for Aguero.
Andy from Daz, do you know if there's any more Russian billionaires out there like Abramovich willing to invest in a, wait for it, progressive club like Plymouth Argyle?
I don't think that's completely out of the question in the future, because if you're looking now at the amounts of money that are involved in buying Premier League clubs, that billionaires who are looking to buy into clubs, they're looking further and further down. So you're starting to get Aston Villas picked up, Newcastle United, and there's going to come a point not too far in the future where it's just too expensive for people who don't already own Premier League clubs to buy them. So of course they'll move on to the top half of the Championship. So there's no reason that won't happen in the next couple of years.
Tim, we haven't heard from Sir Max of Doncaster for a while, have we? Do you think he's broken his finger?
I suspect he's there on the line right now.
Sir Max, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for the intro. It's good to hear it again. After 3 months, it's strange. It's like an episode from Life on Mars. Keegan's back on the scene.
Yes.
England have failed to qualify for a major tournament.
It is Life on Mars. You're absolutely right. And Keegan's still coming out with those famous quotes of his as well.
He is, isn't he? Yeah, I feel for him. He looks doomed at the moment. I've just been watching the Paulista League game between Sao Paulo and Marilia, and Sao Paulo got beat. And I wondered, Tim, with Santos struggling in the state league, how important is the Paulista League with regard to Brasileiro qualification? Is it automatic or what?
First, we have to explain the Brazilian calendar. Brazil is a huge, huge country. It's a country the size of a continent, and it's divided into 27 states. Now, and because it's so huge, and the history of the game in Brazil is the state championship, one championship for each of these 27 states. That's the history of the Brazilian game. That's the way that the Brazilian game has developed. It's only had a national championship, a truly national one, since 1971. Before that, it was the state championship, and then little by little they got in more countrywide tournaments. The state championships still survive today as a relic. They survive really, I think, for two reasons. Number one, for political reasons. The presidents of the state federations, they really have the balance of power when it comes to voting for the president of the Brazilian FA. So they get to keep their championships for political reasons. Also, this is going into the Machiavellian world, really. The state championships, they make very little economic sense. So this is terrific if you're a corrupt director, and the fact that Brazilian football is not fulfilling its economic potential means that there's always an excuse to sell players, and when you're selling players, there's always an excuse for some of that transfer money to get siphoned off into offshore bank accounts. The state championships exist entirely on their own. There is no
if Ponte Preta won it this season, then would they go into the Brasileiro?
No, you get nothing from it whatsoever. It's not qualification for the national championship, which is entirely separate. It does qualify you for the Brazilian Cup, but all of the big clubs are in that anyway. So it really just hangs in a little limbo. For as I say, for largely these political reasons. Now, the big clubs you mentioned who are struggling a little bit, São Paulo and Santos, they're both participating at the moment in the Copa Libertadores, South America's Champions League. Now, that's much, much more important to them. What happens in the Libertadores is much more important to them than what happens in the São Paulo State Championship. São Paulo is by far the richest state in Brazil, and it's the only one that really has enough strength in depth for a half-decent tournament. And some of the teams in the hinterland of São Paulo are quite strong. You know, they can hold their own with the likes of São Paulo and Santos. So the São Paulo State Championship, the standard is reasonable. Some of them, and some of the state championships, are just absolutely and the one in Rio, there's four big teams, and then there's just no one else. And some of the other teams, honestly, they get crowds of 50. No, 50.
Dear.
It's a little bit like the old rotten boroughs that used to get in English politics. And the fact that these state championships exist is absurd. But I have to say, even though it's absurd, the supporters do like them, and the supporters. I often feel like I'm the only person in the world screaming for them to end. There are people coming round to this in Brazilian football, but as I say, São Paulo would be much more concerned about losing in the Libertadores than they would about a defeat in the São Paulo State Championship.
Interesting what you said about the supporters, because the attendances look good. The crowds seem to be, the stadiums look quite full, particularly for the Ponte game and the Sao Paulo match. And I was wondering, just as another question, the Brazilian managers, they mentioned Luxemburgo and Leao, but how would you assess the Brazilian managers as a whole? Are there any more stars in the background there? Are there more characters?
I think that they're good, actually. I think the standard of Brazilian coaches is good, and I think probably getting better. And one of the reasons for this is the constant sale of players. It means that there isn't, in general, looking at Brazilian football, there isn't the top individual talent to tip the balance as there used to be. And I remember when I first came in, my first few games in '94, I saw Rivaldo, I saw Roberto Carlos, I saw Juninho, who's at Lyon, I saw Savio, I saw lots of big players who had spent years in Brazilian football before moving. And nowadays, and someone of the talent of Roberto Carlos, he may not even play for the senior side. The European clubs will have whisked him away at the age of 17 or 18.
Wait, let's go to Stanley in London, who's been waiting patiently. Stanley, apologies. Good morning to you.
Yeah, morning, Dottenham. Morning, Sandy and Tim as well.
Oh, yeah.
Morning.
Yeah, would it be right if I could ask both of them a question that's related to the same player?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's about Werder Bremen's Diego. And first to Andy, obviously, Diego's form in the last 2 years has been quite remarkable, and he's probably been the main reason why Bayern Munich went and splashed and broke their records on transfer spending, trying to get someone as creative as him. And obviously, due to his form for the last 2 years, there's lots of talk of him making a big move this summer. And I'd like to know which club do you think would be suited for him? Because when he went to Porto, he wasn't really the main man there, and at Werder Bremen, he's the main man. And want to know which club do you think would be the best for him, and which club do you think he's actually going to go to? And
that's a very good question, and I think it's a very good point about at Porto. I think the stage was set for him to become the main man, but for whatever reason, it didn't really come off for him there. He showed little flashes of what he was capable of, but I think they spent a bit of money on him. He was coming into a team in a state of flux after quite a lot of big players had left after the Champions League win in 2004. I think it was very, very difficult for him, and a lot was expected of him, and he was unable to produce immediately, so that counted against him. At Bremen, I think, fair enough, he was a main player, but because he'd already fallen on his face in Europe, his stock had fallen considerably. Not so much was expected of him, and Bremen's quite a little town. It's a nice laid-back environment, and of course they have a great reputation for attacking football, so the emphasis was really on him enjoying himself, and I think that's an interesting point. When he does move on, as he inevitably will do, if not this summer, I think next summer, where can he find that sort of peace of mind where he can produce his best form? Now obviously he's been extensively linked with Real Madrid, and I think that is probably not a place that is ideal for him, because there's a lot of expectation, of course, but there's also a lot of not much meritocracy, so he will have to wait his turn in the team. And I think if you look back to when obviously this will be Tim's department, but when he was at Santos with in the same generation as Robinho, if you look at what happened to Robinho and how long it took him to establish himself at Real Madrid, I think Diego would find it difficult there, and it would be a real shame if he was at somewhere where he was a bit marginalised, because he's a terrific player to watch. He's one of the best in Europe to watch. He's so influential, he's so creative. So I think maybe inevitably he will go to Spain or Italy or England, but I think maybe at a club where he really could enjoy his football, but it's difficult because there will be more expectation wherever he goes. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, because like a Porto, I think it was the coach I was messing him about, just playing him on the wing, and that's probably one of the concerns I've got, that if he moves to one of the bigger clubs, he's going to be probably more visible, and they'll probably shift him around as they've done to other players like Baptista and stuff.
But of course, like Robinho had to learn when he moved to the European game, that there's not really such there's not really such free roles in the European game. Maybe you know that a bit more tactical discipline, a bit more learning is required. Ability alone is not enough. and maybe that's something that Diego wasn't used to. He was never going to get put into a team that was rebuilding and given a free role. So maybe that was something he had to learn. And like I say, I think Werder is a unique club. And I think he acknowledges that, though. He's in no rush to get out the door. As we say, he's been linked heavily with Real Madrid and also Juventus, which I think is possibly because they're building something that would maybe be a better option for him. But I do think he's not stupid. He's very mindful of the fact that he's got it good at Werder, and if a big move doesn't come off, he's in no major rush to go anywhere. He's still young.
Stanley, we've got to leave there. Got lots more questions. Jim in Newport, good morning.
Good morning.
Hiya.
Good morning, Mr. Tim Vickery. I'm a Tottenham fan as well. God bless him last weekend.
Hey, this is a World Football Phone-in, remember that?
Yes, okay then. But Tim was making a statement earlier on saying about the alleged, I believe, I'll use that word, corruption is going on throughout Brazilian football and so on and so forth. Yet why are some of the, and not only Brazil, but I believe Argentina too, why is it that Brazil, from what he said earlier on, got the World Cup for 2014? I mean, we don't want that. That 2014 football World Cup should have came to England, not Brazil, and we possibly could get...
Are you suggesting that there's no corruption in the English game?
Well, it doesn't seem to be to me. I mean, I have a cousin who plays Premier League football. No names, no pack drill, but the second cousin anyway. And he plays in the Premier League side. But he seemed to suggest that it has been going on for donkey's years in Brazil. Why?
Who's your cousin, by the way?
Pardon?
Who's your cousin?
Oh, I can't say it.
Oh, go on, Jim.
James Collins of West Ham.
Okay, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Thanks. Let's throw that question to Tim then.
Well, one of the hopes of the 2014 World Cup in Brazil is that it will improve Brazilian football. It will help to bring stadiums up to scratch, help to bring supporter treatment up into something approaching first world levels. It's a fantastic opportunity for Brazilian football to really sort itself out. And whether that opportunity is going to be taken to its full extent, I'm somewhat dubious. In fact, I tend to think that one of the traditional patterns of Brazilian football might well reassert itself in the 2014 World Cup, and a few people will make a lot of money from it, and the great majority will not get a great deal, apart from a terrific party, which I'm sure it will be a great party. But what we want is legacy. What we want is improved transport, improved public transport especially, to get supporters to and from the stadium safely. Well, I suppose the reason that the 2014 World Cup is going to Brazil, it's all tied in with the rotation idea, which was instigated for one reason and one reason alone, and that was to fulfil Sepp Blatter's promise to get the World Cup to Africa, and went to South Africa in 2010 because that was the best way that he found politically to ensure that he could fulfill his promise of taking a World Cup to Africa, bringing in the idea of rotation around the continents. So it goes to Africa. South America hasn't had it since 1978, so it's clearly then South America's turn, and Brazil really is the only candidate that can do a 32-team World Cup. So then it goes to Brazil. But precisely because of these ideas, the idea of rotation is then put to bed, because which other country in South America could do it? I don't think anyone. Which other country in Africa could do it? Well, we're scratching our heads there. So I think it was politics that got the World Cup to Brazil. I would generally support it. I think that it will do more good than harm, but I'm doubtful that it will do the amount of good that it potentially could do.
Jim, thanks a lot for that call. Andrew in London, good morning.
Morning, Dotton. Morning, Andy and Tim. Morning. Dotton, hello. There you are, my friend. A couple of little reprimands before I ask my question. What do you mean not giving a yellow card to a Tottenham supporter? It's a World Soccer Phone-in. I'm the only one who's allowed to mention an English team because it's a unique team called Charlton Athletic.
But they are a world football team. You know that as well. You mean Charlton? Charlton. Oh, okay.
So next time a Tottenham supporter calls, even though Tim supports them as well, a yellow card, please. Okay?
Don't worry, sir. My yellow card is in my hand, ready for them.
This is dreadful. It's like one of these modern players who waves an imaginary card.
Hey, so are you suggesting that I should be giving a Charlton supporter a yellow card for suggesting you should be given a yellow card?
That is what I'm saying. Or is it me who's meant to get it? I'm confused.
Now, the other thing is, just to be factually accurate, the Chelsea non-goal, if I was a non-goal, not only because the referee blew just before, but the ball actually hit the post and came out. It didn't go in.
It was a non-goal. But I wanted to interrupt him in his flow, just like the ref did to Chelsea the other day. You know.
Now, Dotton, I indulged in my other great passion last night. Besides soccer, now, remember it's a family phone-in. What do you think my other great passion is?
Yeah. Can we move on quickly to the football question?
No, I went to the opera. Italian opera.
Oh, okay. That's all right. And did you see Don Giovanni?
Now, the football question is this. The Milan coach, I heard him quoted just a few days ago, that opponents are systematically trying to kick Kaká out of the game. And what they're doing is one player will kick Kaká quite hard and get a yellow card, and then it's the turn of another one, so they don't get sent off, and they're systematically kicking him so they can kick him out of the game. Now, he reckons it's as bad as that. And I remember years ago, Pele being kicked by the Bulgarians out of the World Cup in 1966. Well, both Andy and Tim, do you see any of this against very good players who are just too good for them in Europe and in Brazil?
Well, it's funny. We were just talking before the start of the show about Karim Benzema and the goal he scored against Manchester United in the Champions League the other week. Right. A fantastic goal he scored against Manchester United in the Champions League the other week. And I was saying how I think probably Ferdinand and Vidic are the best two centre-halves he's played against, and two of the most physical centre-halves he's played against. And he found it very hard at first, playing up front on his own. But he learned to play them as the game went on, almost. He learned to give a little bit back. Yeah. He learned to change his runs. And in the end, he scored that fantastic goal where he was surrounded by four defenders and he turned it from his right to his left foot pretty quickly. And before Van der Sar could blink, it was in the back of the net. And I think, ever since the game's been going on, ever since there have been flair players, there's always been an opposition plan to sort of... To sort of unsettle them, whether that be a bit of a kick, whether that be an orthodox foul or something off the ball, it's always been going on. And the very best players have always seen a way to deal with it. And I think in the case of Kaká, he's quite a modern footballer. He's fast. He's got great balance. He's a big guy. He's physically quite strong as well. So I think he can handle it.
What about in South America, Tim?
Well, back up what Andy said. I think that this has always been going on, and certainly Brazilian coaches have done it over the years. On a certain Mr. Phil Scolari used to be heard screaming when he was at Grêmio, "Kick him, kick him, kick him!" This idea of having a relay of players who will take on the star player. Again, this is nothing new. I tend to think that although the physical intensity of the game is greater these days than before, I tend to think that at least the star players are better protected than they were up before, say, the early 90s, when there was the crackdown on the tackle when you go to ground. And that crackdown is not strong enough, and you still see lots of these tackles. But pre-1993 and so on, you used to get so many tackles where the defender went to ground and went through the ankle of the star player. It's for this reason, I think, that the genius of Diego Maradona really has to be celebrated. And Maradona played in a time where, and if you talk to the physical preparation specialists, at the start of Maradona's career, players are running around 5 kilometres a game. By the end, they're running 10 kilometres a game. And the referees have yet to really crack down on the tackle when the defender goes to ground and goes straight through the player. So I think Maradona probably played in that time of football where it was most difficult for a flair player, but he put up with it week in, week out, and for me that really is indicative of his genius.
Do you know how to say kick him in Portuguese, Tim?
Yeah, it was like pega, which is kind of get him. But everyone understood get him as kick him. Pega.
Thanks for that. Andy, do you think Roque Santa Cruz is too good a player to stay at Blackburn next season?
Well,
Jimmy in Blackburn.
Benny McCarthy had an excellent first season there, and he stayed on. So I don't see why Roque Santa Cruz wouldn't stay there for a bit. Also, I think if you look back over the last couple of seasons, he is enjoying a really terrific season, and I don't think there's any doubt in his talent whatsoever. But I think before any big club, if that's what Jim's thinking, are looking to splash out a lot of money on him, I think they would want a second season out of him, because his injury record is not fantastic over the years, and his fitness wasn't always the best at Bayern Munich. So I think if he produced a similar thing in a second season, then he's probably young enough for people to have a look. Yeah,
Tim, don't you just?
I wonder about him, whether he's just not happy with a smaller club. And he's Paraguayan, and the Paraguayans are lovely people, but they do tend to be quite shy, a little bit introverted, and perhaps on Bayern Munich, maybe the thing was just all a little bit big for him. And when Bayern bought him, and it was an incredible prospect, they bought him as a 17-year-old who was good enough to lead the Paraguay attack in the 1999 Copa America. And Bayern Munich really thought they bought one of the real future superstars of the world game. And had him year after year after year, and he got injured, and it didn't quite come off. And I just wonder with him whether a smaller club, he just might be happier there.
How can you talk of a whole nation as being shy?
Well, I think people do have certain characteristics. Certain regions have certain characteristics, and the Paraguayans, they are lovely. They're terrific people and welcoming people, but they're not loud. They're not really outgoing people very much, and so maybe that's a reason for Santa Cruz preferring life at Blackburn to life at Bayern Munich.
And Tim, don't you just love it when a text message or email begins, "Tim once said"? Don't worry, we'll come on to that in just a moment.
I've said a lot of things in my time, and a vast majority of them have been absolute nonsense.
But Andy's got one as well. This is from an anonymous listener. Dawson, can you ask Andy why he thinks Manchester United will win the Champions League when they have failed miserably year in, year out?
Well, they got to the semi-final last year, and
failure. That's a failure.
But they've got a better team than last year. So
okay.
So one better means the final, and they've got at least a 50% chance then, surely.
And Andy, Liverpool need a new left back, says Justin in Oldham. He says Riese and Aurelio equal garbage. He likes Lahm and Emmanuelson. Who would you suggest?
I personally am not sure if Emmanuelson is a particular improvement on what they've got. Philipp Lahm is a very good player. Bayern Munich's Philipp Lahm was one of the outstanding players in 2006 World Cup.
Who does Emmanuelson play for?
Ajax. But to be honest, I'm just not a big fan of right-footed left backs. Lahm is very, very good in an attacking sense, but I'm not sure he really adds anything to what Liverpool are really lacking. I think if you're looking defensive left backs, it doesn't get much better than Eric Abidal at Barcelona, who's converted from a centre half. I think it would have been interesting if Liverpool have got Sylvain Distin when they tried to get him at the last moment in the summer. Again, a converted centre half who can play left back as well. That's maybe the solid sort of player they're looking for.
Edmund in London, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, long time.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning to Tim and Andy.
Hello.
Tim, my questions are basically, do you think Rafinha, what sort of right full back is he? Is he like the Cafu type of right back, or?
Yeah, he's a terrific attacking right back. I don't think he loses too much out when you compare him with Daniel Alves of Sevilla.
Right.
Terrific lung power, can produce a good cross at the end. Like him very, very much. It's interesting just thinking about fullbacks. We just had one question about left backs for Liverpool, and now a potential right back for them because Liverpool, your club, Edmund, have been linked with him. And a few years ago, Brazil were producing more left backs than they could shake a stick at. And no real right backs. There wasn't really a backup for Cafu. Now it's the other way around. Not too good on left backs at the moment, so the cupboard's a little bit bare. But suddenly they've got more right backs than they know what to do with. And if Rafinha had been around 7 or 8 years ago, he might have given Cafu, kind of the late model Cafu, a good run for his money. I rate him very highly.
All right, okay. And also about the World Cup, I just wanted to find out the developments in the stadium building. And another question to you will be, do managers who get, not a lot of money, but in South American standard, a fair bit of money, do they actually get a lot of pressure being put on them?
Oh, yes. Although they get absurd pressure being put on them. And the job security, especially in Brazilian football, is they look at England, and it's unthinkable to them to have like someone like Ferguson or Wenger in the job for that length of time. And if you spend 1 year with a top Brazilian club, you've done a pretty good job to hang on for 1 year. And clubs can quite easily get through 4 or 5, even 6 and 7 coaches in a calendar year. The turnover is very, very quick. In terms of preparation for 2014, it's pretty slow. They haven't got an organising committee yet. We don't know which cities are going to stage the thing. They haven't narrowed the cities down yet, and I think they're reluctant to do that. I think they're reluctant to take that decision for political reasons, because the cities which are excluded might then become opposition to the powers that be in Brazilian football. So it looks to me as if they're trying to push that decision towards FIFA. And not have the responsibility of excluding cities themselves. So progress at the moment is pretty slow.
Edmund, thanks a lot for that. 0500 909 693 is our number if you'd like to join us for the World Football Phone-In. We're talking Europe and South America football-wise, and indeed players from over there playing in our leagues as well. Pick up the phone and give us a call. 0500 909 693. And thanks to all you Sheffield Wednesday fans wishing Charlton good luck against Sheffield United later on today. Lee in Sheffield, not least. One for you, Tim, from Suhail in Edinburgh. Tim, enjoy Spurs' success whilst it lasts, because it may be a while before it happens again. And to qualify this comment for world football, could Berbatov make the Brazil lineup? Yeah, you're stretching it, Suhail.
I don't know. What do you think, Andy? Would you have him in rather than Luis Fabiano?
Not at the moment. Obviously, they're two very different players, but Fabiano's had an absolutely fantastic season. Again, in common with Diego, leaving Santos at more or less the same time, being a terrible, terrible flop at Porto, which I think maybe says more about Porto at the time than it does about Fabiano himself. But he really is living up to his nickname of Fabuloso at last. He's enjoying the sort of goal record that, say, Ronaldo or Afonso Alves enjoyed in Holland, but in the Spanish league, and there's no topping that. I think it's definitely a big move to England or Italy for him at the end of the season.
Okay, question for you both from Martin at Aston University in Birmingham. How do you rate Luis Jimenez at Inter Milan?
Yeah, he's had a good season so far. I didn't really know much about him before the start of this season, I must admit, but he's very versatile, and young players do get their chance at Inter. Roberto Mancini's really good like that, and yeah, he's looked very useful indeed. He can cover either wing or maybe even play just behind the main striker. Maybe Tim can tell us a little more about him.
Yeah, like him very much. He's a young player from Chile, and I think Andy's hit the nail on the proverbial there with his versatility, because he can also play back to goal. He can receive ball back to goal, moves fluently and strikes the ball extremely well. It's good to see him getting the odd opportunity there at Inter Milan. I think he has a lot of potential.
How much of an impression could Spurs' new Brazilian Gilberto have in the Premiership from Stephen Gloucester?
Well, he's a steady Eddie left back, and he's Brazil's first choice left back. I don't think he would have been a few years ago. As I was saying, the cupboard's a little bit bare suddenly. 31, coming up 32, but has a nice left foot, has a lot of experience, and has the versatility to also operate in midfield. And that left side, I agree with Andy 100% on right-footed left backs. I don't like it at all. And I think that left side for Tottenham has been a problem for years. So, to get a player, left-footed player of quality and experience, I think it's a sound buy for the next 2 years.
AJ Manchester started speaking French thanks to you, Andy. He says bonjour. Well, that's as far as he's got so far.
Thanks.
Who will win, Milan or Arsenal? I thank you and bid you farewell. And he says bonjour again at the end of it.
Oh, that's lovely. That's Del Trotter, isn't it? It's got to be. It's got to be.
It could be.
Well, I would say it's going to be really close. Arsenal on an away goal. And by the way, can I also say, me and Tim have been getting stuck into these right-footed left backs. We've got to allow them some sort of right reply. If you're a right-footed left back, drop us a text, give us a call.
How good
Junior of Brazil, he was terrific right-footed left back, but in general, you want the pitch to be opened up, don't you? So left-footed left backs, please.
You've been listening to a download of the World Football Phone-In from Up All Night at BBC Radio 5 Live. You can put your questions live on Saturday mornings from 2:30 a.m. to 4 a.m, or you can email us at upallnight, that's all one word, at bbc.co.uk. That's upallnight at bbc.co.uk.